Hello and welcome again to the Telusk Forum. Our programme today includes an interview with the Reverend Rana about his new appointment in the Diocese of Swansea and Brecon and a new event that's coming up soon. Helen has written a new poem which she reads to us, and Vaughan plays some music on the piano to accompany photographs that we took recently when we were in St David's in West Wales. Ed will give some feedback on the magnificent response to the Harvest Appeal for contributions to the Brecon Foodbank. And finally, I'll be talking to Jeremy about his new idea for putting spiritual resources onto YouTube. But before we get into the programme, we had the first meeting of our book club this week, and Alison's just going to give a little bit of a report back on what happened.
We have recommended books on this programme previously, and we've looked at a couple of books on the pandemic. But now we have a book club which meets roughly every 6 weeks and discusses a chosen book. The last book was Mark Oakley's By Way of the Heart, and this is the one we discussed last Friday. It's a collection of sermons which cover the whole year. It's called The Seasons of Faith. It's a book that doesn't have to be read all the way through as a whole, but the reader can dip into it, either using the dates on the church calendar or choosing a topic. As with most interesting books, the readers expressed a range of opinions on how they reacted to it. Each book club member was asked to choose one of the sermons and speak for 3 minutes to say why it was significant for them. Thus, we had a broad spectrum of topics. There was a consensus on the interesting content, and the words used were refreshing, informative, accessible, and relevant. There was a difference of opinion on what makes a good sermon. It was generally agreed that these were not intended for other preachers to use as their own. And it was recognised that the talks weren't based on the lectionary scriptures as their basis, rather the writer's observations and experiences, his illustrations from life and books and facts and even films. One person stated that the importance of sermons is that they are accessible, in the sense that they are relevant and that the listeners can relate to the references and the illustrations. Another said that these sermons had shed light on familiar stories and that had been helpful. One even found she'd been helped to make a big decision through reading something that set off a train of thought. All said that they had learnt things through the information and the examples used. Others thought it would be difficult to find a way to God through these sermons, but several folks have said that they intend to keep the book for future dipping into. So our next choice is Say Yes to Life by Ruth Valero. She's the Global Advocacy and Influencing Director at Tearfund. She's written several books about issues relating to the environment and climate change and how Christians need to respond to their responsibility in protecting what God has created. It comes highly recommended by the Archbishop of Canterbury. The publisher, SPCK, says she relates the themes of light, water, land, the seasons, other creatures, and humankind to the creation of the planet. It's a topical theme. It links in with what our youth group is doing as well. It brings hope to matters of environmental, ethical, and social concern. She brings in voices from around the world, and each chapter ends with discussion questions, suggestions for action, and contemplation. So we've ordered copies from Bookish, the local bookshop in Crickhowell, and if you're tempted to read it, it's readily available from various sources. The discussion will take place at 7:30 on the evening of the 13th of November. Please contact me for the link if you wish to join the Zoom. And while we enjoy meeting on Zoom, we look forward to having our discussions in the loft in Bookish eventually.
So do join us for that occasion. It'll be a really enjoyable and helpful evening, we hope. So we now move on to the rest of our programme today.
Reverend Rana Khan is the team leader of St Katuk's ministry area, and he's the holder of several other roles too, which he will tell us about. I've asked him today to tell us about a new initiative in the form of an online conference, and he's going to explain about that. Good afternoon, Rana.
Good afternoon.
Now, you're rector of 3 churches and you're leader of a ministry area, and now you have a new role. Would you like to explain about that, please?
Yes, you have just said I'm rector of Pekawar Kundi and Titawar ministry area, leader of 10 churches, and also a new role I have been asked to perform in the Diocese of Swansea and Brecon is Bishop's Officer for World Mission. I think World Mission is something which is very much close to my heart. I have been involved with World Mission for a long time. I'm a very strong believer of John Wesley, who once said, the world is my parish. I think we all at the same time are local, and we also need to consider what's going on in the world. To some extent, we all are involved with World Mission. To me, mission is not just local or not just global, it is global. It has to be local, and at the same time, it has to have some kind of links with the global world. I'm thankful to the diocese and thankful to God for giving me this opportunity in a bit more formal way to engage with our diocesan links, which are so far in Diocese of Ghana, and in near future we will be further exploring our diocesan links with some other countries.
Thank you. Now, I know you were involved with CMS before you came to us, and you have facilitated the conference, the annual conference for Wales and the borders, but this year it's going to be different.
This year it is going to be different. In our last planning meeting, whenever it happened early last year, we decided to move to the parishes instead of all CMS partners and ex-missionaries meeting in a retreat center talking about the things they were involved. But there was no really churches, parishes involvement to a large extent. I suggested, why don't we have this conference in a parish? And we offered St Edmund's Church, Crickowell. So the St Edmund's Church, Crickowell will be a venue. People will be staying in our local B&Bs and in our hotels, and some people will be able to stay in our houses. But all of a sudden this coronavirus thing came, and then there was no possibility to have it a physical conference. Then the suggestion was, can we have an online conference, because everything is happening online, and a lot of things we as church communities are exploring how to engage with God's people and with God. So the idea of an online CMS Wales and Border Conference came, which is actually becoming very popular. I'm sure we'll have more than people we usually used to have,
Yes.
and new people where will be interact. You won't need to travel. Of course, we will be missing face-to-face interaction, but definitely this will be opportunity for younger people, for people who are not able to come. We will be saving money. People don't need to book their hotels or anything like that. And also, we are trying to reach out much more wider audience and people who are involved with local and global mission.
Yes.
Those who are involved with South Sudan, those who are children of missionaries, those who are grandchildren of missionaries, or any kind of connection, those who have with CMS or with the World Mission, they will be able to link up with us.
Right, so if anybody is interested enough to do that, how do they go about it?
The information is on Diocese of Swansea website. The information is available on Church in Wales website, CMS's website. I'm sure your church, St Edmund's Church, is going to put on their website.
Yes.
And also now you can see on the screen the flyer, the email address, and other details. Anyone who will get in touch with anyone through these websites and through this information, they will be able to get the invitation back. It is free. You just need to enroll yourself. You just need to send an email that you are interested, and details will be sent to you.
So no lack of information if you want to join the conference. So Southern Sudan is the focus this year. Now that's the newest country in the world, but it's been beset by lots of problems: war, and poverty and hunger and so on. Now, why was Southern Sudan chosen? Is there a CMS connection?
There are various connections. As you said, it's the newest country. Anglican Church, Archbishop of Canterbury himself, and of course you may be aware of various initiatives by the Vatican and Lambeth Palace together to support peace initiatives in South Sudan. But interestingly, Wales has much more deeper connection with South Sudan than most parts of the world. The first bishop of the Sudan and Egypt was Helen from South Wales. He went to Sudan and that part of the world in 1899. He couldn't reach to the Sudan or South Sudan. Then in 1905 he was able to lead a group of 6 people. I'm not sure who these 6 people were, but definitely Helen was the lead person of that missionaries who went to the area which is now known as South Sudan. And then eventually he became the first bishop of Egypt and the Sudan. So in that way, I can confidently say, and I'm proud of working in Wales, that Wales or Welsh Christianity or Welsh Anglicans have a much more historical, longer connection with South Sudan. And now South Sudan is very much a highlight.
Yes.
But as far as various other things are concerned, I was reading the other day in a prayer report that 13,000 people, more than 13,000 people have been reported positive for coronavirus and 836 deaths. But these are just the figures which are always not accurate, where people don't have facility to be tested and all that. I think that is something for which we can pray, that when we are meeting here online because of the coronavirus and lockdown and this situation, of course many people in South Sudan are suffering, and our mission to South Sudan is always something very close to our heart.
That's really interesting. I didn't know about the Welsh connection. Perhaps other people didn't know either. But that's given us enough information to whet the appetite. So have a look at the flyer, and if you're interested to join this conference, you'll be very welcome. So thank you very much. Thank you for sharing this, and God bless you in all your ministries.
Today we're going to have the stinging nettle poem in praise of the humble nettle. Urtica diocea, the goddess of plants, whose venom could match the asp with its sting. Acetylcholine, histamine, serotonin mixed in and formic acid, and no prisoners taken idea of a cocktail. Bring the Dr. Leaf, screams the small child. Was she too pushed in, aged 5? Come on, at least you know you're alive. When the rash is raised, the itch is keen, the silica dart pours hot liquid through your skin. For other creatures it is so much better, a cool haven for the sleepy caterpillar. He too has potent hairs, and lying low, a truce presumably must ensue. I won't sting you if you, etc. Boiled, stewed, and green is nettle soup, so good for you, your 5 a day in one. Maybe a cup of nettle tea to kill those aches and pains, that creaking gouty knee. Blooming in an understated way near the herbaceous border, an infiltrator certainly, yet delicate pink and cream flowers gather in the cabbage whites, their thin wings beating, keeping the rhythm of summer. It's a weary harmony of sorts, but fist pump to the nettle, respect, give it up for the plant and the consummate sum of its parts.
Well, welcome, Jeremy, this afternoon. It's good to have you on the programme again.
Thank you.
And I hear that you're doing something rather special at the moment. Rumour has it that you've been setting up a channel on YouTube called St Ethley and Friends. Perhaps you'd like to explain your thinking about this and how it's come about.
Yeah, well, I'm aware that we won't be able to go back to normal for some time yet, and I'm also aware that we can't carry on doing things as we were. We're sort of half in, half out. We're sort of half going to church, half going around visiting people, and half not being able to do that. Some people are still shielding and isolating, and other people are more or less back to normal. But nevertheless, people's experience at the moment is very varied, and I'm wondering, how can we maintain our relationships? I can't go into the schools for the duration, but the children are back. So I'd like to be able to somehow maintain that relationship that we have with our schools. I'd also like to maintain relations with the congregational members who can't or won't come back to church at the moment. And so I've been wondering how I can do this on an ongoing basis. The services that, amongst others, you've been editing and putting together on Sundays have been, they look really good. They're very professionally done, but they're very labour intensive, and there's only a certain amount of energy for that kind of thing. We can't keep doing that forever, and something's got to give. So I've been thinking, how can I keep doing something forever, basically? What can I do forever? So I'm thinking, well, I can just record the Sunday sermon and then just put it on there. And then if someone didn't make it to church, they didn't feel happy about it, they're feeling ill, they're shielding, they're isolating, at least something will be there every week, and they can know that it's going to be there every week if they want it. And this is something which I think I could do indefinitely. This isn't too demanding. Turn up a few minutes early for the service, set up the camera, at the appropriate moment, press record, and then afterwards press off again, and then off it goes. And that's not hard to do. And then it's not streaming, so we don't have all the technical issues to do with streaming. It's just there, and if someone wants to access it, it's there. The other thing is the schools. Can't go in, and at the moment the teachers are apparently buried in COVID stuff and new practices, and they haven't really got headspace for anything new. But in due course, I want to be able to support them in the assemblies and with the education which I've been participating in with the children. So I'm going to be putting things for the schools on there as well. If you go in the YouTube search, you just type in St Ethley and Friends, right, and hopefully get the little picture of our stained glass window of Ethley and right place.
Right, so you've got a lot of different audiences possibly coming to see this. How are they going to know where to start on your site?
Well, you'll see as you scroll down the page, there's a series of what's called playlists. So each type of video is allocated to a playlist. So you'll see that there's the top one is downloads or something. What's it called? Uploads, sorry. And that's just a random selection from the whole thing. The next one, created playlists, is a list going horizontally of all the different playlists. So if you scroll down past them, then you see how things are actually separated out and organised. So the first one after that is called Talks, Homilies, Sermons. And that's hardly the things which we've been recording, Julian, earlier in the year, but also each Sunday, this is where I'm going to put my Sunday sermon. And so as I do things, that's where it's going to go. And that I can do indefinitely, hopefully. That won't be limited by time or anything.
I notice also that you've got other talks by other people. What are those about, and how have you chosen to put those on?
Well, I've been talking with Rana and other people, and Rana thinks there's a bit of mileage in doing apologetics. That is, if you like, explaining our faith, dealing with big questions. And so I've called it Big Questions, Explanations, Apologetics. And I haven't actually recorded any of this stuff myself, although that's something which we could look into in the future. But what I've put there are some talks by people I respect and think are worth listening to. They look a little bit long, some of them. So I hope that's not too off-putting. I see one of them, The Origin of Life and Information, is really short, 3 minutes and 13 seconds. But they're all speakers, and they're all talks which I've valued both for the integrity and wisdom and intelligence of the speakers and for the clarity of their thinking. So, if people are up for that, then I think they're well worth listening to. If you scroll right down, you see primary school assemblies. I've got one there, which I borrowed from somewhere else in the beginning, a creation story in animation. Basically, I'm going to add to that and record my own assemblies. And then at the bottom is, I've just called it Bible. And it's a series of animations by two Americans talking about bits of Bible. Notice the first one is the book of Job, and then Ecclesiastes and Proverbs. But there's also What is the Bible? Book of Genesis, part 1, Matthew, Mark, Luke. And these are quite short, quite easy to understand explanations of each section of the Bible. The assemblies, in theory, I would like to record enough for one a week for the whole school year, which are 39 or 6 or something like that. So in theory, that could be quite a lot. So it might mean we have to sort of create sublists or something, so they're easier to find. So I agree, they need to be easy to find, and we'll have to title them clearly and all that kind of thing. There are more of the Bible Project things out there, and I haven't put them on for precisely that reason, that it just starts looking confusing and cluttered. You have too many things up there. If people wanted to follow up, then they can go to the Bible Project home and see all the other stuff they've put up, which is all pretty good, actually. For the apologetics, if I see a really good talk, I'll put it there. I'm not planning on adding to what there is there. It's just, if I see something which I think is good, I'll stick it up. But there's also the aspect of response, that if people want us to deal with something, if as a result of hearing that they're curious, or it begs a question to their mind, then of course we can respond. So either they can write it as a question in one of the comments there. There's an option to comment, when you're watching these things, and I'll get notifications then of a comment, and then I can respond to it. Or if people maybe can write to me at home, or maybe communicate with you, then we could maybe do a talk about it, as we are now. Or
So you'd be happy to get some feedback from people on how they found things, or even perhaps suggestions for what might be included that isn't currently in there.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a permanent resource from that point of view, but there's also that chance of responding. So we can either respond as we are now, or we can record something specially to put permanently up on that resource.
Right.
Here to update you on the appeal for the food bank. It was an amazing amount you raised. Thank you so much. Altogether, there was £1,335 raised. Now, with gift aid added, that's getting us close to £1,500. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your generosity. And that doesn't include stuff still to come in. Talking of which, if you haven't yet given and want to give, if you're in Crickhowell, if you would like to leave a contribution in an envelope to the food bank and give it to Glanidor, that would be brilliant. And we're saying up till Friday, please, if we could do that. Otherwise, if you want to go online and find the Brecon Foodbank and contribute on their website, that would be good too. Thank you so much. Really very, very pleased. The food bank is delighted. Thank you. There is a continual food collection, of course, because it is going to be a very difficult winter for those who are very near the breadline. And we would be most grateful if you would continue to drop off some food contribution to Crickhowell News, which will be collected as and when it's needed to be taken up on a weekly basis. So that's, if you could carry on leaving your tin donations to Crickhowell News, that would be marvellous. Thank you.